My name is Margaret Joyce. I'm the president of the Greater Dover Chamber of Commerce, and on behalf of the Chamber's Board of Directors, many of whom are in the room today, our Government Affairs Committee, also many representatives in the room today, welcome to our annual State of the City Forum. Today we'll be talking about the transportation chapter of the Dover's Master Plan, and I'm excited about that. I serve on the Board of Coast. I thought I was only on for a few years, but Rad tells me I've been on for at least 6 years. So just very impressed about the work that they do and looking forward to hearing from Patricia, Quinn as well. I'd like to thank Cochecho Country Club for hosting us today, and I was praying for rain, lightning, fog, whatever, so we'd have plenty of parking, so I'm glad the weather cooperated, and there's very few. I saw lightning last night. I was like, yes, 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 yes. Also, our good friend Nick in the back, New England Mobile Audio for AV and sound. If any of you have needs, he's the guy. See him. We couldn't do it without him. The State of the City Forum is being recorded by our Citizen of the Year, Mike Gillis, and will be rebroadcast on the city's cable access channel. We're fortunate to have sponsor support for this event from our good friends at Kennebunk Savings, Wentworth Douglas Hospital, and of course our underwriter, Eversource. And at this time, I would like to welcome Jeffrey Jackson, Community Relations Specialist for Eversource, who will say a few words on behalf of our underwriter and introduce our keynote speaker today. Where are you, Jeffrey? There you are.
Okay. Good morning. Yeah, like Margaret said, it's actually good for everyone that it's a little rainy today because my clubs are in the car, and if it was nicer, I would be out there, not in here. It's great to sponsor this event again. We seem to sponsor it every year because our partnerships with Dover are so tight-knit. Kudos to Margaret and her team, as always, for putting on a tremendous event, and Cochecho Country Club for hosting this year. So let's give it up for them real quick. You guys know our business. We're the largest electric utility provider in New England, 211 communities across New Hampshire. And the goal, as always, is to provide safe, reliable power at the lowest possible cost. So to that end, actually, I wanted to talk a bit about our Energy Saving Trees program that's coming up. Is anyone familiar with this program? Just kind of a show of hands. No? A couple people? All right. Yeah. We're partnering with Dover this year as one of the handful of communities we pick every year in collaboration with the Arbor Day Foundation to do a tree giveaway for residents of the chosen communities. So in Dover this year, we'll have about 200 trees that will be a giveaway in a portal. Dover residents can go in there, pick the tree of their choosing, and then on April 29th, pick them up. We're doing it over on Chestnut Street. It's been great to work with Chris Parker and Mayor Shahan and the rest of the folks in City Hall to get this arranged. The great thing, too, about it is that a fully mature canopy and a strategically placed tree can actually lower your energy costs in the summer by about 30%. A lot of people don't know that. So I highly encourage you, if you haven't taken a look yet, just go on eversource.com, look up the tree giveaway. Details are in there, and we have about 40 tree slots left, I think, in Dover. So take advantage of it quick, and I'm making my rounds and trying to make sure that we fill out all of those reservations as fast as possible. So we'll be over here. I'll be circulating around after the event as well. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. And I look forward to hearing what we have on transportation. Thank you so much. To introduce Donna. Sorry about that. Sorry. And I'm supposed to introduce Donna. Donna Benton, Director of our Planning and Community Development for the City of Dover. Let's welcome her up to give the keynote presentation. Donna.
Good morning. Thank you very much. I'm Donna Benton. I'm the Director of Planning and Community Development in the City of Dover, and happy to provide today's keynote and then be joined by fellow panelists Patricia, Quinn, and Nichols. So the Chamber asked that we do an overview of the master plan and kind of explain the importance of the master plan. And two of those chapters that are most important are our vision chapter and our land use chapter that we both recently updated. So I'm going to provide some detail into those, explain the importance and how we update them, And then I'll explain how those lead us into the transportation chapter, which we are updating next. And then we'll have time for a panel discussion based off of transportation in Dover. So in case you weren't aware, master plans is a comprehensive plan which guides the long-term physical development for a community. So this is the guiding document of what is Dover going to become, what do we want it to look like, feel like in the future. And so this then shapes the city and policy decisions, anything from our budget, including the capital improvements program that kicks off our budget season each year, to our land use codes and regulations. And so since we're in New Hampshire, the state tells us what we're enabled to do. So we look at our RSAs, 674-1 through 4 and 675-6, and that explains who oversees it, how often you should be updating it, how it should be split up, what you need to have, and what you can have. So based off those RSAs, Dover then chooses to update a chapter at a time, whereas other communities may update the entire master plan every 10 or so years. We take a chapter each year so that it's updated within 8 to 10 years. This allows us also to inform the public more often and have more conversations with the public more often, and so that it's a continually living document that we're trying to implement and update. We inform the general public as well as the Office of Planning and Development, as well as Stratford Regional Planning Commission. And RSA 74-2 also notes that the vision and land use are mandatory chapters. So those are the two most important that we'll be discussing today. We do have 8 sections, so they're listed here. You can see transportation is one, and you may be wondering where housing and economic fit in, and those are in our land use chapter. So each chapter is set up in similar ways. We have the overall goals and recommendations. Those are placed in an implementation table so that we make sure that we're acting on this and that there isn't just a plan sitting on a web page or a shelf somewhere. And so each section also has a executive summary that provides the overview and the goals. And then we had 33 new action items added to the master plan this year with the land use update. And so at least once a year we go through and figure out what is in progress, what still needs to be reviewed, and what's been completed, and we track those. And so the implementation table has the actual goal or action item. It also includes the priority for it, whether it's low, medium, or high, the responsible party, so that there's some sense of ownership of who's going to be accomplishing that, as well as the time frame that we're expecting that to occur. So the first chapter I'll focus on is the vision. So the vision was purposely set to be redone in 2023 when Dover celebrated its 400th anniversary. And we took 9 months of outreach and engagement to try to hear from the community, where do you want Dover to go in the future? The leadership on the chapter update decided to choose 2035 as the year to look to. So it's serves as the long-term vision for the community. And then the topic was distinctly Dover. And so this then sets the tone for the rest of the chapters being updated in the future. And so our vision is set into 3 different sections, the first being 8 vision pillars, which I'll go over in a minute, and then vision elements, as well as the community value section. So these are the 8 vision pillars. I won't go through all of them, but I think all of you sitting in here being working professionals and chamber members can identify that being a welcoming, connected, and engaged community is important, including emerging urban vibrancy, connected neighborhoods, attractive landscapes, accessible open space, having an attractive and thriving downtown with a lively waterfront, being a destination, having affordable and attainable housing options and support services, expanding business and employment opportunities, having a robust transportation system, and of course, outstanding schools, recreation, and cultural activities, all while being resilient and environmentally focused. So in a nutshell, that's the community vision for 2035. And then once we have the vision, we look at the land use. So how do we want to utilize the land in our city boundaries? So this was most recently adopted in February by the Planning Board. And it offers a strategy and roadmap for guiding that future growth. So it looks at where do we want our land to look like? What's that balance between preserving and conservation versus where are we going to put that growth that is needed in the development that we see coming? Each chapter has a steering committee. It typically has a representative from the city council, from the planning board, and then of course members of the public as well. So the land use chapter focused on the existing conditions and trends. We studied those. We saw how well we did compared to when it was updated last. It again looks at the vision that we just went through with those pillars and figures out how we can accomplish those through the land use. And then how will we get there? So that implementation, how are we going to get to that future that we want with strategy and of course the map that I'll show you. So when we're looking at the existing conditions, we looked at what was adopted in 2015, which was the last time the land use chapter had been updated. And so our population grew about 8.4%, and we're still one of the youngest communities in the state. So we have a median age of 37.6, with the age group of 25 to 34 representing the largest demographic, and that grew 37% from 2013 to 2023. The median home price in Dover rose by about 88%, and the median rental price increased by 93%. And then the median household income increased about 62% around that same time. And then, as you all are aware, we have over 1,500 businesses, establishments, and so we are one of the largest employment centers in the Stratford County as well. So this was a GIS study that was done for this update, and this shows the existing land uses. So there's a lot of different categories. I won't go through them all, but you can roughly see that all that like yellow and orange are different types of residential, whereas the red is commercial, pink's industrial, and then it breaks down even further. And then if you can see the cross-hatched areas, those are conserved land. So then we look at all the public feedback that we got throughout the update process and figure out what we want to do with that and where we want to go. So we heard growth and preservation, and that balancing act was extremely important to the community, as well as housing diversity and the neighborhood integrity. And then of course, all of that keeping in mind fiscal sustainability and quality of life. So then we take the feedback, we take the vision, and we figure out what we want our land use strategy to be. So the core component of the land use chapter is that, and then we look at what we want to change and what we might want to remain the same. And we make those land use decisions then informed based off this feedback and the master plan. And then we actually take the existing condition map, but then also make a future land use map. Which is purposely not a zoning map, and it serves as a 2,000-foot view. So you can see this is what we came up with as the steering committee and then adopted by the planning board. The two black and white circles that you can see are what we are calling village centers. So they're in addition to the downtown area, which is the darkest purple. And so we know of developments such as Point Place, which is one of the circles, as well as we know of development coming on Littleworth Road. So we were planning for those. We've seen other development in our gateways to the city centers, and so those are all represented here. So while it has some same characteristics as the zoning map, it serves a different purpose. And you can see in the green, that's more of our, it's one of our primary residential areas along with the yellow and the orange, but the green is much more rural in nature, and that's something very important to the community as well. So now that we have the vision understood, the importance of the master plan understood, and the land use, that then guides the rest of the chapters, including transportation. So that was most recently updated in 2016, and it incorporates the elements and themes generated by the public engagement process from the vision chapter as well as the land use. And it includes planning concepts related to the walkability, the efficient transportation, and working towards traffic calming. And so again, we have a steering committee that's been appointed. This time it has, again, a representation from City Council, Planning Board, as well as our Transportation Advisory Committee, as well as 4 at-large members. So those have been appointed. We are currently through, or working through the contracting phase, but we did hire VHB and SRPC to help with the update. They are joining as a team, and so VHB can serve more as the technical knowledge and the leader with their expertise on the actual engineering and traffic calculations, and then SRPC can help with the public engagement piece and the drafting and their master plan expertise as well. So we're looking at certain scenarios of, based off this development that we're expecting, where are we going to see some changes in traffic? What do we need to study? What do we need to plan for? Those exact areas to study have yet to be determined because we want to reach out to the public and seek their feedback of what are you seeing, what do you want us to look at? So that's going to be part of the process. Some areas already have been studied because each new site plan and development that come in do have a rigorous technical review process, including traffic studies. So you take the waterfront development, for instance, we had a traffic study done as well as a peer review study done of that to understand how that development would impact traffic throughout the city. And we also look at growth trends, where we think we're going to be in 10 or 20 years. And then again, all the while seeking the input from the public on our strengths and weaknesses and opportunities that we can find. So that chapter will include existing conditions that our consultant team will help us review. We'll look at current documents, current growth trends, current emergence and projected transportation trends that we would be reviewing as well. We would be conducting citywide and corridor-specific traffic calming opportunities, looking at speeds, volumes, and crash data, and as well as a parking analysis. And that's one of the reasons we liked their proposal, is it included a parking utilization analysis. So we were looking forward to seeing that. And then all of that work will again bring us to some strategies to look for in the future. So recommended transportation strategies, which again are guided by that vision chapter, and looking to look at the overall picture of transportation in Dover. So as many of you know, we have multimodal trails, we have sidewalks and bicycle infrastructure. We also have the Amtrak Downeaster that we're very lucky to have, as well as 3 different bus systems. So in terms of public transportation, we have a lot to offer, and I think we should all feel proud about that, because not many communities in New Hampshire have that same amount of transportation options available. Even boats, if you look at the waterfront potential for bringing up boats in the future there. And we also have the transportation center in the downtown. I think the panelists, we can go into that further in detail, but having that in the downtown and having multiple transportation agencies has been a huge asset, and I think you as the business community can certainly see the value in that as well. We do have a transportation advisory commission that meets every other month and reviews any ideas or challenges that we're hearing in the community. We, again, do the transportation studies, as I mentioned, for the new development, and we partner with SRPC for data. So they're able to use TomTom data so that in real time we can figure out what we're seeing for traffic trends, and we're able to do that at a lower cost than actually sitting out there with a counter or laying tubes on the ground, although we do that at times as well, both for cars and pedestrians. And then we're also part of the regional transportation efforts with SRPC, so we are part of that. And then I think one of the topics that we'll get into is how transportation affects the economy as well as everything else. It truly links, and the title was getting here from there, getting there from here, but we're also doing it back and forth. So we're bringing people in, and people from Dover are able to visit different regional places and then come back all on transportation. So it's an important concept to keep in mind. And with that, I'm happy to turn it over to Margaret.
Okay, I'm going to invite our other panelists, Patricia. There's Patricia. Patricia is the Executive Director of the Northern New England Passenger Rail Authority, NNEPRA. And then Brad Nichols is the Executive Director of Coast. And I'd like to echo something that Donna said. We are very fortunate to have that transportation hub downtown. At the Chamber, it's a short walk from there to the Chamber, and we do get a lot of folks who just take the Downeaster, never been to Dover before, and they're able to walk over to the Chamber and say, what is there to do? And the downtown is right there for them. So it truly is an asset. In addition to people who take the train for work, we have a lot of folks who commute to Boston. The train is a convenient, comfortable way to do that. We also have people who are dependent on that. I could think of one actually very good friend of Melissa's who depends on the train. She's not able to drive and she has to go to Boston fairly regularly. Again, it's right downtown. She can walk from her house. So we're extremely, extremely fortunate. So we're going to take questions from the room now, but I have a few to get us started in case people are feeling a little shy. Melissa will have another mic. We'll work the room from, I don't want to break Nick's microphone. Okay. We'll work the room from both sides, so if you do have a question, just raise your hand. Melissa or I will come over to you with the microphone, depending on where you are in the room. We're a friendly group, so do introduce yourself and say where you're from. But again, I'm going to start us off. Patricia, how is NNEPRA funded?
How is NNEPRA funded? Well, first of all, thank you all for inviting me here today. So just a little bit about NNEPRA. We are a quasi-government agency. We were created by the Maine State Legislature back in the 1990s for the purpose of restoring passenger service to northern New England and also overseeing that. So we actually have the operating agreement with Amtrak to operate the service. So Amtrak, in essence, is our contractor. We also contract with a company called Nextdine, and they provide the food service on board the train. Actually, the Downeaster is the only Amtrak train in the country that has independently operated food service. So that makes us really unique, and it really, I think, has enabled us to establish a brand because food obviously is very personal to people, and so we can kind of make it a little more customized. So we do manage the overall budget. So the annual operating costs for the service is around $30 million a year is what it takes to operate the service, to pay Amtrak for the crews, the equipment, do some maintenance. And we target to get 50% of that back from the fare box. So looking at about $15 million back, and so that leaves it a delta of about $15 million. So we actually, our NNEPRA is the recipient of funds through the Federal Transit Administration, so we get formula funds for state of good repair and also for operations, and that pays for 80%. And then the remaining 20% is paid for by the state of Maine. So as you might imagine, it's quite complex. And then many of our capital projects that we have, like you probably saw last spring, the CSX came through and they replaced ties. That was a grant that NNEPRA competed for, a $31 million grant through the Federal Railroad Administration, which is another branch of US DOT, and they paid for 80% of that for CSX to replace 124,000 ties from the Massachusetts state line all the way up to Brunswick, Maine. So very complex combination of federal, state, and also local funds. And I will say that another interesting thing about the Downeaster is that all of the stations, none of them are Amtrak stations. They're all owned and operated mostly by the municipalities in which they're located. So the city of Dover has been an amazing partner for 25 years, provides the facility and maintains the facility. So that partnership that we have with all of the station communities is also a portion of the in-kind match that helps us leverage the federal funds.
Interesting. And I'm sorry, I didn't ask, I should have asked you to talk a little bit about NNEPRA. So, Brad, tell us a little bit about Coast, and then I'll throw the same question to you. How is Coast funded?
Sure, thank you. Sorry for my late arrival. Some days my MS works with me, some days it doesn't. So I'm Rad Nichols, I'm the Executive Director at Coast. We're your public transit agency here in the greater Seacoast. We've been around since, providing service since 1982. We've carried over 17 million folks, boarded our buses. We have two primary services. We have our scheduled fixed route bus services, your traditional, city bus service that operate in Dover and 10 surrounding communities, connecting Dover to 10 surrounding communities. We also have advanced reservation demand response services. The largest of those is our ADA paratransit service. So this is a service that's complementary to our fixed route system for individuals who can't use the fixed route buses because of a disability. Those services, quite honestly, are a lifeline for many of our area residents, and we're really proud to provide those services. In addition to our fixed routes and our ADA paratransit services, we help coordinate, support a variety of community-based services here in the region, Stratford County, Eastern Rockingham County, through the work of the Alliance for Community Transportation and the work that Jeff Donald on our staff does. Examples of communities that we serve or organizations that work with us on that are Community Action Partnership of Stratford County, Ready Rides, which is a volunteer driver program, and Rockingham Nutrition Meals on Wheels. We also are the home for Commute Smart Seacoast, which is a program to help companies and their employees find greener, cleaner ways to commute and more affordable ways to commute to and from work. We have our May B2B challenge coming up soon, so sign up now. It's a great competition to see if you can be on the top of the pile at the end of the month and receive a really awesome Commute Smart Seacoast award. So,
How is Coast funded?
Coast is funded primarily through the Federal Transit Administration. We have allocations that come to Dover, Rochester urbanized area and the Portsmouth urbanized area on an annual basis through the FTA. That's probably 53% or so of our funding. The federal government covers 80% on our maintenance activities, our ADA paratransit service up to a certain percent of our total allocation, and then 50% of our operation. The rest of the funding comes from local communities, comes from philanthropy, comes from the fare box, it comes from the advertising that's on the sides of the buses, and other partnerships that we've put together to keep the wheels on the bus rolling.
Yeah, it's a complicated system. As I said, I serve on the board, and to listen Margot giving the reports and all the grants that they go through. But one thing I will say, New Hampshire is at the top in a lot of stats, and healthiest state, livable. We do well in a lot of areas, but I know from serving on the board that we're kind of at the bottom. Are we at the bottom or close to the bottom in terms of state support for public transportation?
We were. We're a little better now. The last two state budgets have included more meaningful sums of funding for public transit operations across the state. For years, that amount was zero. Then we got it up to $200,000 a year. So at Coast, that meant we received about $34,000 through the state. That covers about 1 day of operations. The budget before this, that dollar figure went up to 2.2 million statewide, and this budget, it's 3 million statewide. So significant improvements. We asked for something in the neighborhood of 6.5 million instead. So we're hoping for continual improvement.
And of course, Coast is not the only public transportation system in the state, and you serve on a statewide board of.
Yes, I'm also the chair of the Transit Association for
the
New
whole
Hampshire.
state.
Yep, there are 8 systems like Coast, or there's 8 public transit systems in the state.
Yeah. So switching gears a little bit, we'll start with you, Patricia. I'd like to hear from both of you, though. What are the rider demographics? Who rides the train? Who rides the bus?
When I'm asked that question, I have a standard answer. Who rides the Downeaster? Who doesn't ride the Downeaster? It's really a wide variety of people. We have business travelers, leisure travelers, we have senior citizens, we have kids, families, we have college students. So it's really a wide variety. In terms of the folks from Dover, the morning train that heads into Boston is the most popular for residents of the city of Dover, so I would think that there's a lot of commuters that come from the city. People do use it for work, for medical appointments. So again, it's a wide variety. About 12% of the ridership are commuters that have it by a monthly pass. Pre-COVID, that number was about 25 to 30%, so not as many commuting pass holders, but we still, those morning trains are still just as busy. So a lot of people do, a core part of our business is getting people from northern New England to Boston for work every day.
So you saw a shift during COVID probably because people didn't come back to the office?
Exactly, and people maybe aren't working 5 days a week. You know, the Monday through Friday workday is just different. So I think that's why we are seeing as many riders on the trains, but not as many pass holders because there isn't the regularity for the passes that people are kind of traveling back and forth. We also had the opportunity during COVID. We were shut down for a while, and then we came back with 4 of our 5 round trips, and so we had always had 2 trains that went down in the morning. I should have had the Dover times here, but I don't. But they leave Brunswick, Maine at 4:30 in the morning and 6:30 in the morning, and then come through and get into Boston at 8 and then at 10:30. And the 2 kind of northbound that came out, they used to be about at 5 and at 6:30. And when we came back and restored service after COVID, we kind of shifted that because there was no northbound train between noontime and 5 p.m. So we put in a 3:45. So now there's a 3:45 and a 5:20, and those are working great. And it really provides people with option because we found that the work day has shrunk too. Employers understand that people can actually get work done on the train, so folks can go in, work a shorter day, finish their day on their commute home.
And one of the things I'm seeing from your very talented marketing team is that you're promoting the Amtrak Downeaster to go to events. I'm going to use Boston to go to a sporting event, go to a Red Sox, I don't go to sporting events, but go to a Red Sox game or a basketball, and that's convenient because it stops right there and you've got the times work that people can get home.
Exactly. So event is a big market for us. So the Downeaster travel, first of all, how many of you have ridden the Downeaster? Oh, good, wow. Great. So it goes right into TD Garden. So if you're going to a Bruins or a Celtics event or a concert, you're right there. You don't even have to go outside, and then you can catch the Green Line right there, and you can get over to the Kenway stop, and you can get off at Fenway Park. So those are kind of the big markets for us. So we do promote that, and on nights that there are, and we're also very unique in that we have a late night train that leaves Boston. It's scheduled at 10:30. And 10:30 works well for Bruins games and Celtics games that start at 7 because they'll get out on time. Doesn't work so well for evening Red Sox games or concerts. So on those nights, we shift that departure to 11:25. And we've worked with Amtrak over the years to do that so we can accommodate people that are going to events. So they go down in the afternoon and come back late at night, and that train gets in at 2:30 in the morning. As I noted, the first one rolls out of the garage at 4:30 in the morning, so it's a 22-hour-a-day operation that trains are rolling out there.
We're going to have to start encouraging people to take the Downeaster to Apple Harvest Day because we're running out of parking options.
There you go. Happy to do it. Happy to do it. And last night, actually, I did look it up. I think it was 23 people got off the late night train last night. It was the 10:30 departure because there was a Bruins game, but got off in Dover. So people from Dover went to the game last night.
Right. Yeah. So Rad, let's switch it over to Coast. Who are your riders? Who are these folks?
Sure, I'll just say I love going to Bruins games on the Amtrak. The only time it doesn't work is double overtime in the playoffs. Can you work on that? So our riders are really split into 2 different groups. There's our fixed route system, and then there's our advanced reservation demand response services. On the fixed route side, our riders represent a broad cross-section of the community. Generally speaking, 18 to 65 and older, the question is, or 65 and older. So 18 to 65 to older. They do skew a little on the lower income spectrum, but maybe not as much as you might presume. They ride, 60% ride 4 to 6 days a week. And they use us to go to work, to go shopping, and to get to medical services. On the demand response side, definitely, these are services that are geared towards older adults or individuals living with disabilities. Definitely skew older. 75% of our riders on those services are over 55. They have a much lower annual household income. 80% are under $25,000 a year. They ride a little less frequently, as you might expect. They ride 2 to 3 times a week on average, but they use the service for much of the same reasons. It's just flipped. So they use the services to go to medical appointments, they use the services to go shopping, and they use the services to go to work. What I really love about our system is we're your public transportation system. We represent a really broad cross-section of the public in the community. The last thing I'll say is, in our surveying, almost 2/3 of individuals who use Coast say that they would not otherwise be able to make that trip that they were making that day without our services. So critically important to those people who are using it.
And one of my favorite Coast stories that I love to tell, I have a very good friend who moved back to New Hampshire after working away, and his daughter has a disability but has a job, and she depends on Coast to get back and forth to her job and to a social life, connect her to the world. So her dad was so impressed with Coast, he's retired, he said, I'm going to become a Coast driver. So now he's not fixed. He's on a demand response. He's on a demand response, and so you'll see him out proudly wearing his Coast vest and driving the van. So Donna, I'd like to bring you into a little bit, and I'm going to kind of tie these questions together and then turn it over to you folks. But Patricia alluded a little bit to the great relationship with the city, but let's speak specifically about the transportation hub that we have right downtown. It's also a trailhead for the community trail. Can you talk about the connection that brings to Dover and the hub, and what that all means?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can get off the Coast Bus or Amtrak Downeaster and then walk to the corner of the parking lot and access our urban section of the community trail. So we have that pedestrian connection. It allows you more of a offshoot from downtown while still being so close to downtown. Or you can take a brief urban connection through the sidewalk area and get to more of a rural section of the community trail off of 6th Street, and that can take you all the way out to Watson Road. So if you're looking more for the scenic route along the river, it allows bicyclists and pedestrians to enjoy the community trail that way. So it's an offering that Dover has, so if you want to ride it from a different community and come enjoy our community trail, or if you live in Dover, you can take the community trail to the transportation center and then use those methods as well. So I think we're very fortunate to have that right in the downtown.
Yeah, and it really is an asset. Again, we have people come into the chamber all the time. A lot of relocation, people coming to the city, and they want to know what is available. They want to know, are there walking trails? Can I get out and walk my dog, ride my bike? That's very important to them. But also, how can I get from here to there? So they're very impressed to hear about the wide array of services that we have. And again, Patricia alluded a little bit to the relationship. Can you talk about the city's relationship with these two entities and also the surrounding communities, because you're all interconnected?
Yes, so both with Coast, the different communities get together basically as board members, and Coast has the board, so we discuss more regionally Coast efforts, and then with NNEPRA, we get together as station operator as a committee or just as a group of people that all are in our individual communities but involved with the stations. So that's nice to be able to hear what's going well in Brunswick or what's going well in Exeter, what improvements they're making. We are also able to then put like pamphlets for the community trail on the other stations. So it's a nice working relationship, and I've known Rad and Patricia, I think, for 14-ish years now. So they are excellent at what they do, and they know that we can be a resource for anything they need in Dover, and likewise, so that we're able to make improvements to the station as needed or change signage as they'd like. So it's nice to have that working relationship.
And one last question that I've got. You talked a little bit about the city's plans for the futures in terms of transportation. I'll ask each of you, any plans for the future NNEPRA or the Downeaster, and then I'll turn it over to Rad. But Patricia, what's coming up?
Oh, we have a lot going on and a lot coming up. So we're actually in the middle of what we're calling our service development plan, which is a federally prescribed process for planning for passenger rail. So while that is going on, we have a lot of other little things happening. So we have a $32 million project underway at our Wells station, which isn't too far from here. In front of the Wells station, there are 2 tracks, but there's only ever been 1 platform. So trains coming in opposing directions couldn't ever meet there. So we're building a second passenger platform with elevator towers and an overhead pedestrian bridge. So if you go up 95, you can see it, or if you want to swing over there. We're also going to invest some money in that facility to update it and upgrade it. That station building in Wells is actually, interestingly enough, owned by the Maine Turnpike Authority. And then they lease the space. The town provides people to staff it for the train service. So once we get all of that work done, we're actually going to add a 6th round trip. So right now the Downeaster makes 5 round trips a day between Brunswick and Boston. The 6th round trip isn't going to go all the way to Boston. It's going to actually originate in Wells and come north. So folks from southern Maine and New Hampshire can go to Wells Station and board there and arrive into Portland for 8 o'clock. So provide a commute option for folks from southern Maine and Seacoast, New Hampshire to get into Portland for the workday. So that's ongoing, and that 6th round trip hopefully will be started sometime within the next year. We also have some plans to relocate the station in Portland to a mainline location. So right now where the station is in Portland, it's off on a branch line. So if you're going beyond Portland to Freeport or to Brunswick, you have to kind of do this funky backup move, which takes 15 minutes. You know, Dover, again, is so lucky that where your station is right in the middle of downtown, and it really has provided the community with a tremendous asset and opportunity, and with great planning from the city to help leverage that. Portland really hasn't had that ability. We're off on this branch line, so we want to relocate the station to the main line so that the train can stop and go like it does here in Dover. So we're working on that. And then also very exciting, just so you all know, in 2030, which I know it'll be here in a minute. In the year 2030, Amtrak is getting a new fleet of equipment. So there'll be brand new, bright and shiny new train sets. It's called the Aero Fleet. They're modern, provide great amenities. It's really going to be a game changer, so we're really excited for that.
That is exciting, yeah. And you're right, 2030 will be here like that. So, Rad, anything new with you?
Just a couple things. So you may be aware we're trying to rebuild our facility in Dover here. The facility we currently have it's older, it's tired, and it's inadequately sized for our operation today. So it's a $19.5 million project. We've gone through final design, everything's permitted. We're just trying to put the final pieces of financing together. We actually will go public with our capital campaign tomorrow night. And we're really excited to get the final pieces put in place so that we can secure a home for our next 40 plus years. On the operating side, frequency is the name of the game in our business. Our system runs on a 1 hour headway, so a bus is at any stop once an hour. If we could improve that to 30 minutes, we know what that'll do to our ridership. We've done it in the past with the Little Bay Bridge widening project. We had 3 of our routes that went to 30-minute frequencies, and ridership just exploded. So that's what we're trying to get back to for some of our busiest routes. And we have an opportunity this fall with the Congestion Mitigation Air Quality Program and the upcoming grant round to pursue that. And we will aggressively pursue that for as many of the routes as we can reasonably pursue. And then hopefully down the road, we'll be able to continue to implement 30-minute service on the rest of the system.
That would be a game changer. As I said, I'm on the board, so I have the privilege of touring the Coast facility. I've seen how the sausage is made. But can you talk about the fleet storage, which I think people don't understand,
Sure.
what that does to your drivers, your team?
Yep. Yeah, so we do not have the luxury of storing our fleet indoors, and particularly in the winter, as we have more ice events, and snow is a challenge anyways, but ice is even more so. When that gets on top of the vehicles, we have to clean that off before we get out on the road. Of course, it's a major safety issue. Getting that cleaned off is done by a group of our staff, generally speaking, operators who come in early before their shift to help clean off, the 35 plus vehicles in our fleet. So that takes a considerable amount of time. So they're coming in generally at 4:30 in the morning. They'll do that for a couple of hours, and then they hop in the seat and they drive for 8 or 9 hours. So if we can get our new facility built, we will have a new bus barn that's part of that. And we'll be able to store our fleet indoors overnight. It'll reduce the amount of time we're trying to warm up the vehicles in the morning, because we'll have a minimally conditioned space that they can be housed in overnight. And it'll reduce labor costs associated with our snow team coming in early, and quite honestly, improve safety. So.
And it sounds like an environmental impact. At a recent meeting, I think Michael's here, your operations was talking about the idling.
Right. Yep. So to get a bus warm for the first run of the day, which of course is what customers really appreciate, we've got to idle for about 30 minutes in the parking lot before we even leave the yard. So if we can get rid of that need, that's huge from an environmental standpoint.
All right, enough from me. We're going to turn it over to you. Melissa is here with a microphone. I'm going to step over to this side. Just raise your hand. And again, we're a friendly crowd. If you could just give your name and your affiliation, that would be great. Jonathan, I can always depend on you to get the ball rolling.
Happy to help. Hello, my name is Jonathan Nichols. I'm the executive director of the Woodman Museum here in town. My question primarily for Donna. From your presentation, saw that, I'm happy to see that we're making a larger effort to attract people to Dover. But with the waterfront, with more people coming, I'm just wondering what is actually going to be done maybe sooner rather than later with calming traffic. I can say from personally, our personal experience, morning, afternoon, around school drop-off, traffic is backed up from like Thirsty Moose all the way past us. And then we have people flying past us on Summer Street to try to get off of Central. So I'm just wondering what is going to kind of be done
Yeah,
about that.
so you hit on the two things we often hear at the Transportation Advisory Commission, as well as just at the city in general, is we hear complaints that traffic is going too fast on certain streets, and then hearing complaints that it takes too long to get through the downtown. So some of that is all driven by engineering studies and traffic studies, and so they look at the level of service. And so sometimes that's a level of service that shows that traffic is too slow, and that means that you typically would have to expand to try to add more lanes or add left turn lanes, et cetera. Being one of the oldest communities in the country, we only have a limited right-of-way, so sometimes we need to get creative with that, and we lean on the engineers and traffic experts to do that, and we include those types of projects in the capital improvements program. It sometimes isn't as simple as just putting paint down on the ground. A lot of times drainage comes into play. We need to look at curbing, where the water's going, how that's then going to get treated so that it's not going onto abutting properties. So it is a concern. It is something that I think we'll be able to identify more solutions through the transportation chapter, and then be able to identify that funding to help solve some of those issues. And then in terms of traffic calming, when things are going too fast, there are mechanisms to try to divert traffic in ways to cause people to not feel as safe to drive over the speed limit. And then it's interesting because as a property owner, if you're standing outside playing with your kids and a car drives by, that may feel a lot faster than the data actually shows. So we'll look at the data to see what the average is going over the speed limit, and often it's not truly going that far over the speed limit. So some of that is the education as well. So kind of a multifaceted approach. It often does take funding, and so it has to go through the budget process. But some are able to be more short-term solutions as well, so we look at those.
Does that answer your question? Mayor. Oh, I'm going to sit here till she's got one right here. You going to let the mayor go?
Good morning. Thanks to the panel for coming out and folks for being here to listen. And this is for both Rad and Patricia. Dennis Shanahan, Mayor, and also Chair of the Board of Directors of Coast. So yes, I'm asking a question I know the answer to, but I think everyone should hear it. So for both of you, the grant ecosystem has changed considerably over the last 10, 12 years. So how have your organizations had to pivot, recognizing the changes in the federal grant system?
Yeah, it's ongoing. I mean, we've been pretty fortunate. So the Downeaster funding for the Downeaster, the Federal Transit Administration funding for the Downeaster, actually comes through the Portland, Maine UZA. And so that's where we get our allocation. So, you know, we've been, it's actually been fairly stable on the formula side. The discretionary part is really become challenging. The good news was that in the last transportation reauthorization, nationally, $66 billion was provided for passenger rail investments over a 5-year period of the reauthorization across the country. The unfortunate part, a good part of that went directly to Amtrak, but the rest of it is all through discretionary grants. So to do projects, we have to go through this discretionary process with the Federal Railroad Administration, and it's extremely cumbersome. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of money to write these grants, submit the grants, wait for the grants to be decided upon. But it really, the real challenge is that it doesn't give us on the passenger rail side predictable funding mechanism, because all the funds are discretionary. So we can have projects in the pipeline, but then we have to wait for the right flavor of money to become available, compete on a national basis. And so it makes it a little bit harder to plan.
So we have our regular formula program and then discretionary funds we rely on as well. For us, the formula program, when the results of the 2020 census came out, we did not grow as fast as the rest of the country in terms of small urban area that we're in, or urban areas that we're in. That's both Dover, Rochester, and then Portsmouth UZAs. So we got a smaller piece of the pie overall. We lost about $320,000 a year starting in 2024 on a $2.2 million annual allocation that comes to the region between those two urbanized areas. The other thing that that shrunk. The other thing that the FTA has really struggled with, or the federal government has really struggled with, is keeping up with inflation. And inflation, particularly since COVID, has been steep, particularly for us. What we pay our staff now versus what we paid our staff pre-COVID is dramatically different. We had to dramatically change our pay structure so that we could have people behind the wheel. Commercial drivers are very difficult to find these days, and so the competition is fierce. You know, cost for professional services, cost to maintain the fleet, cost for any number of insurances, all are increasing at well above inflationary rates. And so we're struggling with being able to continue to provide what we provide today, tomorrow. And we did have to make some adjustments last fall so that our services on the street better met what we anticipated for revenues. I will say we're more efficient now. The services that we reduced were some of our less efficient services. Not to say they weren't important. And it has, the last 2 years, fiscal year 24 and 25, our ridership increased 41%. That's just astronomical. So far in 26, which is since October, we follow the federal fiscal year, ridership on the fixed route system has been flat. And that's a result of the service adjustments we made. On the demand response side, we're still seeing demand grow, and that's largely driven by what's happening with our populace here in New Hampshire. We're getting older. So those folks are looking for more ways that they can move about the community without their own vehicle.
Hello, my name is Aaron Williams. I'm with Strongtown's Seacoast. And my question is for Donna. The Transportation Master Plan that was put together in 2016 had a lot of ambitions around walking and biking. And I assume this chapter update that we're going to do is going to have more ambition in that direction. Walkability is more than just sidewalks on a street. High Street in Somersworth has sidewalks, but that's not very walkable. It's about comfort. It's about viability. It's about, just being dignified in conducting yourself in that form of transportation. I don't think Dover's going to accomplish these goals without compromising the driving and the level of service and the other things that we were discussing earlier with Jonathan's question. What is Dover's strategy to mitigate that? Because when you're going to start compromising the level of service for certain roads to pursue these walkable and bikeable goals, you're going to get friction. What's Dover's strategy for overcoming that friction as it pursues its walkability and bikeability goals?
So it is a community decision, and certainly when a lot of it comes down to funding, I think having the public come out during the budget process and communicate those goals to City Council would be a start. Anytime the city is redesigning a street or redoing a street, we ensure that there's street trees and lighting so that pedestrians can feel safer, not just that there's the presence of a sidewalk or a bike lane. So we do try to have those conversations with the different neighborhoods to see if they would prioritize parking versus a bike lane. We are standardizing the lighting so that we have the sense of safety for lighting, landscaping, drainage, and stormwater systems. So I think it's a multifaceted approach. We can't do every request that we're hearing for traffic calming or street redesigns, but when we do have that project before us, we're making sure that we're making those adjustments, as well as off-site improvements for site plan developments. If there's a gap of sidewalk missing, or if they're redoing something, we'll ask them to put in that sidewalk there, knowing that eventually we can do it in segments. So we do try to make those improvements whenever we can.
Thank you. And thank you, the panel, for coming here today, giving us a lot of information. And Margaret, kudos to you and the chamber. Bob Carrier, unemployed or retired mayor, whichever slash you want to do. Donna, I have a question for you. I was chairman of the committee for affordable housing when Ryan Pope started. And we worked tirelessly for 2 years, come up with some great ideas and everything. Put it together, presented it to the city council, and from there it went to the planning. They decided not to restart anything with the committee, and it's gone to planning. Could you just tell me where that's headed, what's going on with that?
Absolutely. So the council will be holding a workshop the first Wednesday in May to provide an update on the efforts that the Housing Committee's report had outlined. The Planning Board is now serving as the Housing Committee with housing commissions, and again, state statute with enabling legislation can kind of limit that authority. So we decided to place that with the Planning Board, as it kind of has been. We do still have a designated planner focused on housing. So she's still on staff. She's grant funded. We have sought out and are trying to utilize the Invest New Hampshire funding that we received to try to see what we can do about the housing situation with what we have in our control.
Thank you.
Hi, this question is for Rad. This is Lori McIntosh. I'm the chair of the board of Our Place NH. We are building housing for adults with developmental disabilities. And there will be a house with 11 individuals on Route 108 and near the high school. And they'll all be working and involved in the community and wanting to get around. And I'm wondering, what are the chances of the 108 bus route ever coming back?
I think we would want to work with Wildcat Transit. They are on 108 now, and find ways that we might be able to better coordinate around those services. I know they're relooking their system that goes off campus. We were meeting with them yesterday. So there's more coordination happening there now than there has been in a long time. I think the challenge that they face, quite honestly, is their financial situation. If we were to get involved with services back on 108, we would likely want to look at connecting even further south than Durham, maybe into Newmarket, so that there'd be a Newmarket Durham-Dover connection. That all would take discretionary funding. And we use, I guess I didn't really mention that, what we use discretionary funding for is for expanding our system or for our capital needs. So there are opportunities, few and far between typically, but if we were able to work more closely with Wildcat, there are possibilities. I'll leave it at that.
Anyone else? How are we doing for time, Melissa?
We're crushing it on time.
Oh, we're crushing it. I love that.
If there aren't any, Sarah's got one.
Sarah.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Sarah Donovan with Foster's local newspaper. Donna, I have a question for you about bike lanes. This is kind of bouncing off a previous question, but can Dover expect that in the future, and is there anything in the works for that?
Yeah, so we do try to place bike lanes where we think they would be utilized and where they make sense. Our current engineering team would like to see more studies done rather than just placing bike lanes down on the ground. So we are having those conversations, talking with the different neighborhoods to ensure that they would prefer bike lane over parking if they have on-street parking now. And so we are also talking with the bicyclist community. We do have on the steering committee for the transportation chapter several bicyclists so that we can get their feedback as well, because we understand there's recreational biking, there's transportation biking. So we want to make sure that we are providing that option as well as for other modes in a way that is safe for everyone.
One other question. So I also saw from the presentation that we're looking to expand our river access a little bit more, especially with the waterfront coming in. Just wondering what is being planned potentially to utilize the river as a mode of transportation for people coming to Dover.
So the paddle boating dock is going in, and then there are future plans and intentions to have a motorized boat dock to go in, and that way we can partner with Gundalo or anyone else to try to offer some of that availability for someone to be able to come up the river, park, go out to dinner, go shopping, etc. Great, thank you.
Jonathan, I would say that way back in the day, mid-90s, we actually looked at ferry service. It's the time it would take for you to get to Portsmouth, for example, from Dover It's just, it's not competitive.
But so much fun.
It would be beautiful. It would be beautiful, but not competitive.
And I do want to note, based off the bicyclist questions, that both Coast and the Downeaster do take bikes on board. So if anyone was not aware of that, that is an opportunity as well to help with some of that last mile connections.
Yeah, we actually see a lot more of our riders using bikes, and we see a lot more riders using e-bikes. At some point, we will probably have to upgrade our bike racks on the front of the buses to be able to handle the weights of the e-bikes, and the jumbo tires. So that's something we're considering, but it's down the line yet for us.
Greg Backus from VHB. You just answered my question about e-bikes, but I have another one. Are you finding any ways where technology can help your services, both of you?
Oh, software. It's great until it's not. We use a ton of technology, whether that's for helping schedule our demand response services more efficiently. We use a variety of packages for that. We use technology for real-time bus information out for our passengers. That on the back end of that, we collect all sorts of data to measure the performance of the system. Our radio systems have tons of technology associated with them. So yeah, we're heavily invested in technology. We are. It is something that absorbs a lot of our time as the technologies work and then they don't, and then we have to find different solutions. It's quite a challenge for us.
Ditto. It's like you say, it's great when it works, but it changes so quickly. And the railroad is an old, as somebody brought up, 200 years old, and it's not a very nimble industry. And so sometimes there are some challenges. Just two quick things: those new train sets that are coming in. One of my we're very excited about them, but we've had a lot of conversations with Amtrak, because it's really going to change the way these train sets are maintained, because it's going to be done as much with a laptop as it will with a wrench. And so it's really going to be a transition. And also on the technology front, CSX has been coming through on their entire corridor from, again, the New Hampshire state line to Brunswick, and is installing a brand new state-of-the-art signal system that's been ongoing for about a year. This is a project that was federally funded through Amtrak. It's about a $75 million project. It's called Positive Train Control, and it will significantly improve safety all along the rail corridor. It's kind of like air traffic control for trains.
Hey, so I'm Margot Doring. I'm the Director of Finance at Coast, so this is a little bit of a plant that Rad isn't aware of, but I'm going to ask this question anyway. So we talked about the unpredictability of federal funding and how it funds certain things and not other things, and it goes away and it comes back. What can the rest of us do to help even out or fill in the gaps to fund our public transit system?
Well, that's where we're looking toward philanthropy and also advocacy. Those two things are increasingly important to our organization. For the longest time, we really relied on the federal government and our local communities, and we've got to broaden that base of funding. And we've been working the last 3 years on just letting people know that we're a nonprofit. Most people did not know that we're a nonprofit organization. They think we're a government entity. And then building relationships with the philanthropic community. I've invested significant time and effort into being present in the State House and working toward getting those increases in in state funding for operations. It's somewhat miraculously worked, which is fantastic. I hope that we keep having success there. But it's quite a challenging environment, so.
And if I could just add also, as I mentioned earlier, the reauthorization of the federal transportation bill is currently being considered at the congressional level. And advocacy is so important, and advocacy from the business community is really important, because one thing we didn't specifically talk about today was really the economic impact that transportation and public transportation has. And this is the time to let your congressional members know on the House and the Senate side how important public transportation is to your communities and to your businesses. They need to hear that it's important, because I think sometimes in rural states it's underappreciated. I'm actually headed off with a group next Tuesday and Wednesday. I'm going to be in DC with state partners from across the country, meeting on the passenger rail side. But don't underestimate the importance of your voice, and don't think that the people in DC understand what your priorities are and what your needs are. They need to hear it from you.
Yeah, the Rockingham Planning Commission, Stratford Regional Planning Commission did an economic analysis of the impacts of coast operations to the regional economy and back in 2001. And at that time, they said for every $1 invested in coast, there was a $4 return in the local economy. That's probably closer to $5 now, quite honestly. So investments in our systems have absolute, definite, positive returns in the communities that we operate in.
Yeah, I've got another one. This is really for Donna. What is the state of electric vehicle charging in Dover? Is there a thought about municipal facilities being installed, that sort of thing?
So we require electric vehicle readiness for most of our site plans, so that should the demands be there, that it's easy to just install the charger and that all the infrastructure is already there. We do have EV chargers in our parking garage, and we've seen that since the Tesla superchargers went in off of exit 8, the utilization of those in the garage have really gone down. We are looking into adding them into the waterfront development so that we do have that ability. So it is something that we're keeping our eyes on, and that we're trying to make the efforts that it's easy to install in the future as well when demand goes up.
Good morning. I'm Art Guadano with AG Architects here in Dover. I have a question for Rad. Communities throughout the world sometimes offer public transportation at no charge. Has Coast, number one, what percentage or cost part of your budget is ridership fees, and has Coast looked at what might happen if it did not require fees from riders?
So the fares we collect from riders make up somewhere around 7-8% of our budget. Pre-COVID, that number was closer to 15%. So the last couple of years, it's been improving with that 41% increase in ridership. We have not looked at going free. In fact, right now, the current administration has a definite perspective on going free, and there's some concern that you might jeopardize your federal funding if you did that. We are actually, we came out with a press release yesterday that we're going to be considering a proposal to increase our fares from the current $1.50 per ride to $2. I'll be honest, I think sometimes when we get things for free, we don't value them the same. And so I think that we've always felt that if we can have a reasonable fare for riding, that's the best approach. And I'll be honest, we need those revenues.
All right, last question. Who wants the last question? I've got one.
Okay, go Melissa.
This is for Patricia. I heard a rumor that something was happening to the Broadway bridge for the train. Is that a true rumor? Are you aware of this rumor?
Wasn't that an April Fool's joke?
Oh, I don't know. It came from Donna.
It was,
Not this Donna, our Donna.
Yeah, no, I think that was an April Fool's joke. Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, not that I know of.
Yeah, the Broadway Bridge reminds me of Storrow Drive in Boston. There's the count of how many people, no matter how many warnings you put up, you're still going to hit the overpass. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure that was an April Fool's.
All right, we've got a real last question.
Oh, we have a real, all right, Aaron.
My question is for Rad. It's piggybacking off of the transit answer that you just provided. So you're saying that 7 to 8% is the recovery that you're getting at the fare box for your operational cost. What are the strategies that you're implementing at Coast to increase that recovery? Because I think, as you said earlier, relying on the federal government is a very fragile strategy. So trying to move that money and that recovery locally is beneficial here. What are your strategies for conducting that?
It's all about providing a high-quality service, and when we provide a high-quality service that meets the needs of the people who are using it, then word of mouth and the encouragement for others to try Coast out is the best strategy we have. I will say that our surveying of our riders consistently reports back that 9 out of 10 riders say that they recommend our services to their family, to their friends, their colleagues. I'm very proud of that ratio. I'm very proud of the staff that makes that happen. Word of mouth is by far our best tool to increasing ridership, which then increases that portion of the revenue stream.
I think in general too, marketing is really important. So we have a marketing manager on our team, plus we have an agency, and spend considerable dollars every year out there through social media. It has provided, I think, some new opportunities at a lower cost to be able to get the word out there. But it's providing the excellent service, but it's also converting people because it takes time to change habits and to get people out of their cars.
The mayor, actually, former mayor, has a follow-up to your question, Melissa. Oh, Aaron, did you have something else? I'm sorry. You sure?
Melissa, this is for you. I live near that neighborhood. That's our entertainment. There was a plan way back when, I think the deputy city manager could attest to this, I'm not sure, but when they redid Broadway, they looked at taking and digging down a lot lower and increasing the distance between the street and the top and the bridge. Because if they would have gained another 12 inches or so, there would have been a lot more clearance for like U-Haul trucks and all. But I don't know if you remember anything like that, and I don't know, Chris, if you remember anything like that, but so far the entertainment's great,
My first day living in Dover was watching a U-Haul truck get peeled at that bridge. All right, so we have one of our sponsors here, Kennebunk Savings, who's going to say a few words about them as well, and then we'll close the program.
Good morning, everyone. It is so good to start my morning connecting with a lot of familiar faces here today. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm Dory Polanco, current retail market manager for Kennebunk Savings Bank. I oversee the Dover and the Portsmouth branch. I will say our current model right now, based on the younger generation, is helping happens here. And based on the stats, the impact and all of your efforts, Dover helping is happening here. Like, you folks are putting every ounce of your efforts into impact, and I will say that it is an honor to be part of that impact that we want to see in our communities each day. And with that, I won't steal Margaret's thunder. I know how you love to share the spotlight. But seriously, it is an honor to be part of this community. It is an honor to see it boom in the way that it's heading. It is an honor to see our keynotes putting every effort into what they do each day. And really what drives all of us is our purpose, right, towards the right overall mission that we have is helping one another is the right thing to do. So thank you for all of your efforts. And with that, Margaret, take it away.
Thank you, Dory. And that's actually a good segue into thanking our sponsors. Much like your budgets, only a certain percentage of our budget comes from membership dues. We depend on the generosity of our partners, such as Kennebunk Savings, who helped sponsor this program, Wentworth Douglas Hospital, and of course Eversource, who was the underwriter for today. Thank you to all of you who are attending, who attended today. Thank you again to Cochecho Country Club. Thank you to the weather gods, and have a great rest of your day. And you will see people's contact information here. I'm going to throw it out if they have follow-up questions. You're all open to that. So thank you, everybody. Have a terrific rest of your day.